Hey, hello gang. Hang on just a second. This is a challenge, good challenge. Hello, my name is Dan. Thanks for joining me. This is Daily Art Adventure number, whoops, wrong way, 945, mixed media illustration. Nice messy writing there by me. Ready, set, go. Well, hello, let me turn you around so you can see a better view. You don't need to look at me. So this is another in a series of illustrations. The last one I did, which was, you can watch me do it, most of it, last week. This is a story biography of a man who fought in the Civil War, went on to become a successful business person. This is my illustration. I sent it to my client and he said, no, it's too dark, I want it lighter. So in Photoshop, this is not a very good copy, but this is some of the changes I made in Photoshop. And a number of little things, you know, I cleaned up his hand, cleaned up cleaned up two of their faces anyway, this hand, and this man's slacks, they look too much like blue jeans. Anyway, so that was the illustration. That's the finished illustration. And so this is the technique, again, that I'm doing. Another illustration. All right, and a good, worthy challenge. Let me show you the actual sketch that I sent to my client several nights ago. Sat down with this notebook and scribbled this out really quickly. Emailed that to my client, and I was mostly, this is a copy of that enlargement, mostly on track. He had several little suggestions which were reasonable. So what I did just a few minutes ago, again, turning on my light table, which I use a lot. Light table on. So I copied the drawing over on a separate piece of paper. Get it? So now this is what I'm looking at, right? So this is one generation, a little bit more refined than this one. And then I turn it over again, and am starting the whatever drawing that makes 1, 2, 3, third or fourth, anyway, not counting the rough drafts that he of which he did not approve. All right, so here's a good opportunity though to talk again about anatomy drawing. The way I tackle anatomy, let me just drop here is I begin to draw in a again, this is very Dan Nelson-ish lines and feel and so forth, and some of that is the stuff that you can't do simply because I'm me and you are you. But I don't mean that it's so good you can't do it. I just mean it's so idiosyncratic. These lines are just, I've come to know, are me. These are me lines, okay? And you have your lines, and that's part of what makes life so amazing, is each one of us is different. So I'll very often start doing an anatomy illustration with what I just called me lines, Dan style, Dan looseness. If everything comes out swimmingly, perfectly, satisfactorily, if I'm happy with the anatomy, then great, I just proceed and add detail. But sometimes, as is the case here, I'm having trouble visualizing, seeing, getting the anatomy correct. All right? When that happens, I revert. I go back to sort of my academic learning. I go back to my book learning. And book learning so to speak, is knowing that the anatomy can be reduced down to these three essential blocks. Of course, I'm doing a number of things intuitive. The gap between the torso box and the hip, that how wide it, all of that stuff I'm doing intuitively. But if I need help, if this doesn't accomplish, in pretty quick order, if it doesn't look right, feel right, if I can't get the anatomy quite right, the point I'm trying to make is then I revert to this blocky figure. There's a lot of this kind of stuff on the internet. You can find it. I have a number of those. By the way, if you want to see some of my collection of anatomy drawings on the internet, go to my Pinterest account, Dan Nelson something, and I have over 300, last count, 300 anatomy that other people have drawn, and I have them divided into whole figure, head, nose, ear, neck, shoulder, arm, foot, hand, divided into like 20 different categories. Anyway, that's just if you want to see what I've collected myself. Right, so the picture here is Major James Coker, the star of this story, the hero of this story, being carried off the field with a grievous hip wound. We've talked about this before. Mini ball shattered his left hip. Horrible. It's a miracle he survived in that day. Miracle he survived the infection. Miracle he survived the blood loss. Truly just amazing that he survived. I'm sure thousands, tens of thousands of men died with lesser injuries than what he had. Okay, and the story is two men are carrying him off the battlefield, but they're still in the battlefield. There's going to be a cannonball exploding over here with wood and so forth, a shrapnel, a shed or a fence blown apart or something. The trees all around are going to have, broken off branches and that kind of stuff. So a real horrible battle scene. I have a picture here somewhere, an old painting. Well, yes, sir. There it is. I can never find things. So here's a famous painting of this battle at Lookout Mountain, Tennessee, October 28, 1863. So there we go. Okay, but my client, I already sent him one sketch that he didn't quite approve of. He wants us looking down more. I'm looking for my previous sketch. Here we go. Okay, this is what I sent to him earlier. And he wants us, instead of looking at him, he wants us looking down. Okay, that's reasonable. So that's what I'm trying to capture here. And two men carrying him on a blanket. So this is really challenging my my storytelling, my anatomy drawing especially, because I'm having, honestly, hello uncle, good to see you. This is for a book. Yes, sir. And this is about the, 10 or 15 illustrations I've done for the book. Let me just talk through it while I walk through it. As you can see, I basically have two tools here, a big fat pencil and a skinny pencil. I'm going back and forth. Usually I use a side saddle grip, as you see when I'm doing sketching. The hard part for me, and I might even just start over on instead of I think I might do that. Here, let's just start over again. The hard part I'm trying to visualize is, first of all, looking down. That's a challenge enough. So here I'm using the blocky trick, okay? Because one of the distinct advantages of reducing the human figure to these essentially three blocks, And then you can add more detail as necessary, you know, arms, legs, so, hips, and so on. Well, the hips are one of the blocks. The hard part, I'm having a hard time visualizing. And here, I'll probably stand up in just a minute. And I've mentioned this before. Let me point you at it again, just for fun. So, through my brushes over there. Okay, there's me waving at you. See, I have a mirror. I have more than one, in fact. I have another one over there. In my downstairs studio, I have a mirror right behind my easel, and I've thought often people must think this guy's really vain. He's got all these mirrors. Okay, not hardly. I mean, maybe I am vain, but that's not. The mirrors have nothing to do with the vanity. Because here's what I'm having a hard time picturing. Having a hard time picturing two men holding a man on a blanket. Okay, I'm just going to have to stand up and act this out. So tell you what, I'm going to put you back over here. So you're going to get a nice shot of my studio / bedroom. We have another we have another adult living in us with us right now. This happens periodically, some of you know. All right, I'm not on the screen. All right. In fact, here's a blanket. I'm going to pull a little blanket. This is much too small, but it'll get the idea across. So here's what I'm thinking. This is even a small blanket, which is good, okay? A man, I'll call him dead weight. He's not dead, but he's not moving. These two men have to. A man weighs 160, even in the Civil War, 160 pounds. That's heavy. I mean, that's not nothing to sneeze at, okay? So they could be holding the blanket like this. Are you with me? That's curling 90 pounds, 45 in each hand. And I know exactly. It can be done, you know. We go to the gym, a man, and we'll curl 90 pounds. If you're a man like me, you won't curl it very many times, you know. But really what happens more is you can curl for a second, but most of the time, here's what I can't figure out. So most of the time, arm's going to be like this, and I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to have my legs. I can't stand that way because I'll fall over, but it'll be arms like this. Are you with me? This is what I'm trying to figure out. So how? Because according to my calculations, two men standing like this, even with a small blanket, the man on the blanket is dragging his butt on the ground. We don't really get him off the ground. We're just kind of like dragging him. Maybe that's what they did. In fact, part of the story is that he was in agony because his boot, evidently he was a cavalry major, because he had stirrups. Okay, so I guess that's pretty clear. The story that I've read says he had stirrups, and they kept getting caught in the bushes. Well, I guess so. And because you can hardly get this man off the ground. Are you with me? And if it's a big blanket, then you're going like this. And maybe I'll have one guy. And of course, these are South Carolina farmer dudes. They're used to picking up calves and bales and goodness knows what else. So they could be considerably more stout than I am. I used to be stout. I'm kidding. I was always a distance runner, not a weightlifter, football player. But I just feel like it's unrealistic for two men to be going like this. But maybe I'm the only one that's thinking this deeply. What do you think? Well, that's for sure. I am the only one that's thinking this deeply. But you know what I mean? You don't curl 90 pounds very far. After just half a minute, you're like, off. Heck with that. And you're just dragging it like that. In fact, I kind of like the idea of, instead of two guys like this, I like the idea of one guy, trying to go that way, curling one hand and dragging the other. Okay, so now I'm looking at my body, and I'm not looking at my mirror because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. But normally I'd be looking at myself in the mirror and just checking out. But okay, both feet at 45. One knee straight, one knee bent. One arm bent, one arm straight. One guy like that. I like that idea. The other guy, more like... Anyway. Are you with me? Put the blanket back on our guest's bed. There, oh, came out perfect. All right. Now I'm going to try to draw that before I lose it all. They're not paying me enough for this job. Let's start over again. Yeah, that was helpful. This guy's trying to go that way. That is not, you don't drag him foot first, you drag him head first. If you're dragging a man on a blanket, you drag him head first, not foot first. Okay, so I'm going to draw now the... Now, how was my torso? I'm standing up once again. Okay, my torso's pretty vertical, so that helps. That helps. And this arm is the one that I had curling. And this leg goes like this. This foot goes like this. This leg is straight, and likewise, foot goes that way. And the blanket is from here to here. And now, I've got the major. He's with one arm. He's grabbing the edge of the blanket as if to help carry himself, because he's getting dragged on the ground and is horrible. And also he's got one leg bent, partly because when you're in this much agony, in my opinion, this is the picture I'm imagining, that when a person is in this much agony, it's literally gut-wrenching, and I'm thinking he would almost be curled up. I mean, like stomach, rather than kind of laid out flat. So that's why I've got one knee raised. Yeah, and then his wounded leg, of course, just dragging. And I've got his other arm extended toward his wound, like, ah! Just horrible sound. I mean, my sound effect was horrible. Okay, so I've really backed up quite a bit here from where I started this morning. Where's the thing I sent to my client? Well, I can't even find it now. Don't worry about it. This is where we're at now. And so this is what I do. Oh, let me see who's watching, who's commenting here. I had to move my monitor out of the way to do all my acting shenanigans. Uncle says, exactly. Once upon a time, there were two men carrying a wounded soldier on a blanket. And think, what's next? Did it hurt? Did my job as well? You're exactly right. And I agree about the wooden litter. You did, and I appreciate those pictures. I do. The story, though, says they were carrying him on a blanket. It doesn't infer. And the story says his wounded leg was dragging in the bushes. So that's what makes me think they hadn't gotten to the litter part yet, which I'm sure they would as soon as possible. Okay, so let's do sketch number 2 now, getting a little bit more precise. And once again, I'm going to revert to the. Do you see that when you draw the human figure as blocks, one thing that really helps, is to capture the figure in perspective. Okay, I've got, yeah, that was a good, if he's got the blanket like this, not like this, because you're stronger curling this way than this way, right? By the way, just for what it's worth, here in a minute, I spent some time looking online, printing out Confederate uniforms. This is the major, and he's got 2 sergeants helping him. And then I have the stars and bars diagram over here. So, you know, people care about that stuff. I don't, but they do. So I'll work on that. I'll work on that later. Okay, and this arm was straight. I mean, this leg, I'm sorry, was straight. This leg is invisible to us, so, but I'm going to sketch it in anyway. It's behind the blanket. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm happier with that. All right, now the major who is wounded. I think he was known for the rest of his life. As the way sometimes, you know, people are who've been through war. They carry the Colonel Sanders, you know. I don't even know if Colonel Sanders was a colonel, but anyway, that's the idea. Here's the shattered hip. It's his left hip, by the way, but when I'm doing when I'm working through the artwork, I don't pay any attention to left, right, left, right, left, right, because, in fact, I can even, if I want to, I can even correct that in Photoshop, right? Because all I have to do is produce a flopped mirror image of it, and then left becomes right and right left and so forth. So I don't try to keep that straight at all. They have more buttons down the front than I would have thought. 1, 2, double row of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 14 buttons. Interesting. And of course, these guys are wearing hats, but again, my impression is they've been shot to hell in a battle. People lose their hats. I mean, I don't know. Thank God I've never been in a battle, but whew, does not sound like any fun at all. That's an understatement, isn't it? One of the other challenges I have is I want this illustration really to highlight the man in the blanket, not the men carrying it, because the story is about him, not about them. So they are important in a sense, but I don't want faces. I don't want tons of distraction. There we go, a little more bent leg. There we go. Now I need an eraser. So that was my first new sketch. This is my second one. Do you see that it's slightly neater? So now I turn this page over and erase. Hang on. Just about lost you there. Whoa, hang on, hang on. And who else? I need to redesign that monitor holder there. Cause says maybe the carriers are using the blanket as you would carry a stretcher. One has 2 front corners, the other has 2 rear corners. Ooh. think not, because, again, because the story says that he was catching his spurs on bushes, which makes me think that this leg was low, whereas if it was a man on each side, like a hammock, that leg would be high. I might be wrong about that, but that's the picture that makes sense to me. Okay, Uncle says, see email, I will do that again. Cause says, the one in front has the wounded man beat. Oh yeah, that's a good picture. That's a good picture. Uncle, thanks, you guys are giving me all kinds of help. Uncle says, only litter men carried wounded men in Civil War. Otherwise, the soldier got yelled at. Wow, interesting. And Kaz says, hands holding the blanket corners. Oh yeah, wow. That's really a good concept, Kaz. Doggone. I don't want to start all over. I see what you mean. That makes sense. Putting, instead of carrying all the weight, you know, and men, I mean all human beings, will find a way to carry a heavy weight. They'll find the most efficient way. And you are correct that this whole thing, the way I'm doing it, relies completely on their arms. Whereas, you know, when we go backpacking, we put a backpack on our back, not on our front. So anyway, good point. Uncle says, if during battles, if a soldier put down his gun to carry wounded, they would get in big trouble. Huh. In fact, in the little story that I read, there was actually some reference to what you're saying, Uncle. Cause yeah, you're exactly right. Okay, let me come over here and look up in my computer the email. I gotta put all your signatures on here. Come on, give me a break. Okay. I think you guys are coming up with really good ideas. Here's the problem. My client already approved of this one with a few modifications. So I think, and Cause in particular, I think putting the blanket over your shoulder, hunching forward, you know, to carry the weight of a man makes total sense. So I think this is early in the process. Before they get to that point, they're still, you know what I mean, just picking them up like initially. That's what I'm going to say, because I don't want to rearrange the whole thing for another view that my client hasn't approved of, I think. But I'm loving. I didn't get your email yet, Uncle. It's really strange. Let me go ahead and sketch in some of the. See, there's supposed to be a bomb bursting. Now, what my client doesn't really visualize is, if we're looking down at this man, how can we see a bomb going off? It doesn't really make sense. That's, again, the kind of thing you have to deal with often when you're dealing with clients, because they literally cannot visualize. It just sounds like a good idea to them, but they can't visualize. If you're looking down, then how can we see a bomb going off sort of in the distance? You can have a bomb going off, killing them all right over them. Do you see what I mean? Anyway, so we're just gonna fake it. Maybe that's downhill. I don't know. So don't tell anybody. It doesn't really work, but I'm gonna try to make it work. All right, I think I'm ready for so I've drawn new 1, 2, 3. This is my third. At some point, it's easier just to get a new piece of paper instead of erasing. So that's what I'm going to do here. Bye, Uncle. Glad we caught you for a few minutes. Go paint. Go paint. Go do something good. Way to go. Okay, I'm going to draw a blocky figure one more time. I mean, maybe more than once, but at least at the moment, I'm going to I hunched his shoulders this time. By the way, you may be thinking, well, don't illustrators like usually use photographic reference? And the answer is yeah. It's almost like that's a different style of illustration. I was looking at the work of an old illustrator today. It came up in a request I have from a potential client asking about a painting, and I looked up Harry Anderson. Such an ordinary name. I was afraid I might find all kinds of Harry. But anyway, I found illustrator Harry Anderson, mid-20th century illustrator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boy, that's a lot of buttons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then a belt. Let me look at my uniform again. Wow. A high belted uniform. Harry Anderson, one of those, in the golden age of illustration, I'll say, same age as basically Norman Rockwell, not N.C. Wyeth, but Andrew Wyeth. And one of the websites, one of the references I found from online showed how he used photography in his paintings and his illustration. His paintings were, again, very traditional, like Norman Rockwell-ish, you know. Very good painter. He didn't slavishly copy his photographs by any means, but he certainly used photography. And as you can see, I'm not using photography for this job. It gives the illustrations a very different feel, generally, if you use photography. I should say it the other way around. It's a different feel if you don't use photography. Right, you see what I'm doing? I think I'm getting happier with how this is looking. I noticed a minute ago when I showed you that the painting, the famous painting of, yeah, this guy, he doesn't have the trees all shot to smithereens quite as much. This one maybe, as much as I would have the trees shot up, but, well, maybe I'm thinking World War I too, when it was really machine guns would just rip a tree to literally to shreds. Yes, I'm going to do a border just for fun. I don't have to stick by this border, but it just helps me keep things straight, literally straight. And then a bomb blowing up. I'll worry about how to draw a bomb blowing up in a bit. Mostly I think it'll be a burst of light and piece streaks, but then the whatever got blown up, the wood flying apart. Again, part of the story was as he was being carried off the battlefield, he was certainly not initially out of range or out of danger. All right, so that was sketch number 1, 2, 3, for those of you who are counting. I'm going to do something right now. Forgive me. It's going to take me just a minute. Before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and enlarge this. And I think I can do it right on my scanner copier here. Okay, copy OK. Size, yes. What happens if I do? Oh, custom size, here we go. Let's see if it can handle 144%. Let's see if it fits on a page. Technology certainly does help us to do a lot of things the lazy way, rather than redraw it enlarged. You want to see out my window? With all your heart. I know you do. Oops. There, how about there? Isn't that nice? Nice shot of our good neighbor's house. Well, doggone. It's the right size, but it's not dark enough, so let's do it darker. Let's try that again. You hear me refer to my computer all the time. There's my nice old Macintosh computer, still working. There you go, Uncle. He left us, but there's the email he sent me a minute ago. Ooh, wow, look at that. Oh, this is World War I. Wow, carrying a guy in a blanket. Can you see that? I'll print that out probably, because that's a good reference. Thank you, Uncle. And he sent me another one. All right, there we go. That's good. Wow. Whew. Yeah, war is hell. I hope we don't have another one soon. All right. So at least now I've got my illustration is enlarged, so I don't have to redraw it. I can just so now again I turn it over. This is my main trick, in case you're not getting it. It's because the mirror image helps so much in seeing with fresh eyes. Let's draw it again. So this will be sketch number 4. Do I do fat pencil or skinny pencil? I think I'll do skinny pencil. one of my secrets, one of my tricks for avoiding drawing faces on these guys, which would be distracting again, because we want to look at the hero in the story, not the men who are just filling a role. Is I'll put hats on them that will cover their face, all but their chin. So that'll help a lot solve that issue. And again, I'll pay a little bit more attention. So here's this two sergeants, short collar, whatever kind of collar you call that, nothing on their shoulders whatsoever. No stars or bars or stripes or anything, just sleeves and buttons and the belt. Okay, good. Lots of belts in the Confederate uniform. You know, belts around there. All right, so now I'm going to graduate a little bit past my block figures, and instead now I'm going to try to draw loose, again, Dan Nelson lines. A little more on his hip there. And again, their jackets are surprisingly long. See, to me, it seems like a little bit longer than our current suit coat style. And I think I've got this guy's leg too straight. I want it a little bit more braced under the weight. Oh yeah, and this leg, again, which we can't see, is actually going this way. Oh, we might see his heel. That would be helpful. Just get a little bit more information. But I'm going to erase all this so I don't get confused by those lines. Welcome to the wild and wonderful world of illustration. There's a bulge in the blanket there because of his right foot, which at the moment you understand is his left foot, but that doesn't matter because we're going to flop it again, of course, and then it'll be his right foot. Does that make sense? I believe all these uniforms were made out of pretty much 100% wool, which is just, can you imagine? I mean, you know, the summer heat, in the winter it'd be great. Well, if great is the word, but bearable maybe. Okay, here's his hand, thumb going that way, fingers over the top of the blanket, and he does have, they all have things on their sleeves with a point on it, but he has fancy things on. Yeah, he has very fancy things on his sleeves if we get a chance to see it. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. That is a lot of buttons. Huh. Took him a while to get dressed in the morning. And I'm going to work pretty hard on, of course, his face. And I have a picture of a photograph of him here from shortly after this time of life. So here's good-looking guy, straight nose and good eyes, nice shaped head, and already working on, here he is as an old man, already working on the big bushy beard. I've said before, I do not understand the big bushy beard mustache thing. How do you ever get a woman to kiss you? If she's got to crawl through a barbed wire thing like that, I can't imagine. Anyway, too much information, I'm sure. I should not think about, but just like, ooh, gag. Guess I'm not a big fan of big bushy mustaches. That's, you know, I never kissed a guy with a big bushy mustache. And I probably never will. Chances are good. Okay, and this hand is just reaching toward his agony. Oh, I can't have this. There we go. Now that's something, see? Look. So this is his uniform. See that right there? Let's zoom in. That's his uniform. He got shot high in the hip. That means he got shot right through this coat. And I have not indicated that at all yet. You know, I can't, it would not be appropriate to just put his coat down like this and put a hole in it. That won't do at all. So I'm going to have this part of his coat, of course, covered with blood now, but all mangled, and lifted out of the way, because we got to show his hip all mangled. Again, welcome to the wild and wonderful world of illustration. These are the things an illustrator has to think about. Once again, I'm reverting here a little bit. How well you can see what I'm drawing. I'm reverting back to the block figure, just to, if I need to help me get, especially perspective, right? That's people, when you and I, when artists study the human figure, if you're not careful, it's really easy to ignore the rules of perspective, which are huge. That there's a lot of perspectival considerations, things to take into consideration when you're doing like. And again, all of these figures need to be viewed as if they're in the same three-dimensional reality. You just can't draw three figures. They have to be standing on the same, or this guy lying, so to speak. But these two guys have to be standing on the same terra firma, and the only way to convey that is to make sure, you know, that we have vanishing points, the same horizon, and so on and so forth. Anyway, and I don't have a great shot of their shoes. I mean, they just look like pretty much modern day shoes. But if he's a cavalry guy, of course he's got spurs. We already know that. I might have to look up spurs to see exactly what they look like. All right, but I am getting closer. Here's what I think I should do. This is getting a little bit boring. I can hear people getting, you say. It's been boring for 20, 30, 40 minutes. But I think I should end this broadcast, draw by myself for a while. You've seen the process, and I hope it's instructive. Again, I'm always with a little nod toward perhaps any young or aspiring artist who catches me, or anybody who wants to see the work. In this case, the work of an illustrator, which is obviously very closely related to this arm is not working. I mean, we're supposed to be seeing a lot of foreshortening, but it's just not working, is it? Now, I do kind of like the idea, one thing that is happening here, let me broadcast for a little bit longer, is that the blanket is uneven. See, because that indicates to me that they're just getting started in this operation. See, this guy's got a whole bunch, and this guy, he's almost falling off the blanket this way. To me, that's realistic, rather than having like even. They're just sort of barely getting them off the ground. They're not in good form yet. That to me goes along with the, you know, with the cannonball exploding just over their heads, back, not over their heads, but behind them here. Let's make sure we don't do symmetrical trees. We call them symmetries. I was not clever enough. I was not clever enough to see that coming. That was completely accidental. That sounded like I was really smart. Trees that are symmetrical, we call them symmetries. Dang, I'm going to use that in the future sometime on purpose. Okay, and a bush and a little bit of foliage in front of that guy's leg, that'd be a little realistic, right? I haven't given any thought yet to light source, blah, blah, blah. That'll all come later, right? Like here's my illustration from the other day. You know, got backlighting and so on, but that'll come later. And when I get this sketch pretty carefully worked out, oh, I don't want a tree growing right on this guy's head. That would not be good. I will send this sketch to my client, and I think I'll tell him I'm going ahead and working on it, even though symmetries. As I've said before, at least I entertain myself, eh? A lot to work out up here. This is coming along. Okay, so what sketch number was that? I don't know, 4 or 5? I think 5. Okay, throw that out now. And here's where I'll end this. Hello, Michael? Yeah. Hello, some person. Badumtish. I don't know what that means, but sounds interesting. So here's the way I work. Okay, you do not need to do what I do, but hey, I recommend it. And by the way, they sell nice, really nice, fancy LED light tables nowadays. I bought this one in 1986 or 7. That's amazing, isn't it? That's a lot of years. Anyway, so here's the way I work. I turn it over, and again, once again, the mirror image. I've got some leftover acrylics on here. The mirror image is a real help, because I've been now staring at it for several minutes this way. When I turn it over, I see it to some degree with new eyes. Does that make sense? But I'm going to bid you a fond adieu. I certainly expect to broadcast more this afternoon. Let me pick you up for those of you who just perhaps joined me late, said, who's this guy who's droning on? That would be me droning on. My name's Dan. Thank you for joining me. This is Daily Art Adventure number 945. Woohoo! Just 55 to the big 1,000. When I started this 3.5 years ago, I thought, by the time I get to 1,000, I should be pretty good. I'm bitterly disappointed with my progress. but progress nonetheless. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.